Hello TUSD math teachers, this is Andrew. I'm using this video just to share a little bit of my thinking through hacking a McGraw-Hill textbook problem. So you'll notice I'm in the Algebra 2 unit here, looking at Skill 2D, and I noticed here that there's a textbook, page 169, question 55 to address this skill. And the skill is I can write the equation of a quadratic function in any form and defend my choice of the form. So the problem says, hey, write a quadratic function with a maximum at 3, 125 and roots at -2 and 8. So here's my solution and what I noticed. So it took me a couple minutes. Overall, this whole hacking process took me under 10 minutes. So it took me a couple minutes to solve the problem first. I first considered which of the three forms would be easiest for me to use, considering I was given the maximum and roots. And between intercept form, vertex form, and standard form, I chose vertex form. And once I solved for the a value, I also sketched the parabola and its axis of symmetry so I could identify as many attributes as possible. So I noticed the a value has to be negative because it's concave down. It could be thought of as a narrow parabola, so the a value has to be less than -1. And the y-intercept has to be positive here. I can consider any of these attributes when looking for ways students can either access the mathematics or make sense of the relationships within quadratics. And I might also use x-intercepts instead of roots, depending on where we're at in the unit. So here's my hack, everybody. And just food for thought, or a heads up, my hack is on a one-page Cliff Notes version just for you. So here's what I'm thinking. Part 1, hey students, with your partner, use one whiteboard to sketch a parabola so it intercepts the x-axis at -2 and 8. So maybe we'll get some stuff like that. And then, hey guys, now compare your parabola to the parabola the other part of your group sketched. So we have two parabolas to compare. And hey students, how are they alike and how are they different? Talk about it. We'll come back whole group. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking for parabolas that are both concave up, concave down, highlight those differences. I might announce to the class that a fancy way to refer to the x-intercepts is -2 and 8. We might also identify questions like, hey, can you identify the axis of symmetry? Do we all agree or disagree, and why? If you had to write an equation for your parabola, let's say we're at that point, what would its a value be? And discuss. So there's part 1. Okay, part 2, everybody, is with your partner sketch a parabola so it has a maximum and it still has roots at -2 and 8, and maybe we'll start getting parabolas that look like this. Maybe we have to define what maximum is. So, and also we want to make sure that our axis of symmetry is still 3 here. All right, so questions to consider: maybe identify your maximum, share it with your partner or table. What's another name for the maximum point of a parabola? Fancy ways. Vertex. What is the a value of your parabola? Maybe look around at boards and notice that at least 5 of you have said the a value is negative. Should we all have negative a values here? Maybe what conjecture might we make about our y-intercepts and stuff like that. So there's part 2. And then maybe we can move on to part 3, and with your partner sketch a parabola so it has a maximum of 3, 125 and roots of -2 and 8. And obviously we got to zoom out for that bad boy. Go from there. And maybe say, hey, our task for today is to write an equation for this quadratic function, because now maybe we're at the end of the unit, or maybe at the beginning of the unit. That's all we have to do. We're not writing the equation, but I know that the learning target was to write the equation. So maybe before we write it, discuss in our groups which form makes the most sense, and consider the information I gave you, your sketch, and also what we know about A. So now I'm back at this point here where, hey, maybe I already know these 3 forms and which one makes the most sense in our group, and we have to defend which one might make the most sense to start with and use. And knowing that we can always change routes at any time if we are inspired by somebody else in the classroom. All right, I hope that was helpful. Please ask me any questions. Let me know if you have anything to share or any feedback to go along with it. Take care.